see. We'll give it a minute for some people to join. Oh, that sucks. So really what we're going to do here is move that over there. Take this down for now. Put this up there. Like that. It's almost nerve-wracking to put up there. See that? It's a masterpiece. I spent all day yesterday getting that together. And it's, yeah. It's pretty wide up there. We're going to go over that in a second. A couple of things on the agenda. First, we'll cover the origin here. Obviously, don't look at that side. Looks terrible. Let me put the panel back on with the battery. I don't think I brought the pin for it. Fortunately, I think it's in the house. So we'll just leave that in there for now. I'm sure everyone came for the origin here. I'm gonna move the camera and we'll take a look at it. Yeah, so I finally got it together. We are number 53. I don't know if you can read that. Wanted to do another live stream on it because the last live stream was terrible in terms of quality. So I kind of wanted to showcase some of the quality. I can't really see, so I apologize for that. I mean, this thing is just a work of art. It really is. I don't mind the blue end tube sticking out here. I forgot the other bar piece, whatever you want to call it, in the house. I do have a optic shell out here. I'm going to grab that. I think it has the other bar in it. Let me find it. Maybe somewhere. Okay, so I don't know where it's at. Too much stuff. Too much junk. So it's really not that heavy. I think I haven't actually weighed it as of yet, and I can't really weigh it because my phone connects to the scales, and we're using my phone for the live because the other camera doesn't have as good a quality. So I don't know the exact weight off the top of my head, but I will get that, and I'll post it on the YouTube posts, I think, community. Well, I don't know what it's called. They're making changes to it consistently. So the place where we create text posts, I think it was called community posting before. Now it's called community. I'm not sure. But anyway. So I went with a Shift GT3 servo because that's what I had laying around. I didn't have any new NSDRC servos. I'd used them all. And then for the motor and ESC, I went with the Fusion 2-in-1 until Holmes releases their 2-in-1, and I'll probably get that for this truck. I haven't gone too crazy with it yet, specifically because if somebody wins the giveaway, I don't want to have to take anything off, and I don't really want to run the truck until that happens. So I do fully intend on running one of my Origins, and I will have footage of that. So like there's the wheel. It's a better view of it. Turned out really well. I wasn't a huge fan of the wheel design at first, but with the slim IFR, clear IFRs with the clear rings, I think it looks really good. So, yeah. It does collect fingerprints relatively easy. So, there is that. Not that it matters. Really impressed with how it turned out all together and how it went together. Vanquish did a fantastic job. I'm going to try and find something to set this on so everybody can see it, so I don't have to hold it. This is what we'll do. We'll use this box because that's coming up next. So we did finally get a Axial Gilamon. I'm going to call it the Lemon. The GLP-1 car. We're going to call it the GLP-1 car. So I'm going to set this up here while we talk about it so everybody can get a look. So anyway, is that a travel limiter? No, there's no travel limiting on the car, but on the front there are bump stops. So these little deals here, they are actual 1-to-1 scale of something you'd see on a full-size rig. What it does is it essentially has a lot stiffer spring or fluid in it, and as you're reaching the max stroke of your shock in the downward position, essentially full bump, it hits the bump stop and eliminates the shock from taking all the brunt of the piston being forced all the way down. So there's no limiting straps or no limiting devices on the truck, which is completely fine. But yeah, it went together really well. Everything was packaged perfectly. I mean, you expect there to be perfection for something this expensive. However, it turned out really, really good. I don't have any negative things to say about Vanquish on the entire truck as a whole. Again, it's a lot of money, but I think they did a fantastic job. Now, I know I've said in earlier videos that there are some things they might have missed the mark on or could have done differently. Looking at the truck, I can see why it took so long to design and release, and also, why maybe some of the other things were not available as options. And that's really specifically because the amount of work that went into it. So to get it to where it is now, I understand that we weren't going to get some of the things that I would like to see. So that optic cage has to be out here somewhere. I forgot the pin. The pin for the other side. I'm going to take one more look here. Yeah, I don't know. Do not know where that went. Guess we're stuck with the antenna tube for now. So, anyway, yeah, there we are. The wheels, was not a huge fan of the wheels. Yeah, you're right. I will have to take it all back apart to send it to the winner if this is the one that they choose. I did read something last night where it said that Vanquish was actually not going to take orders for new trucks or new origins for potentially another 2 to 3 months. So I'm not sure how accurate or true that is, but that means if we do have a winner here within the next week or two, they'll either have to take this truck or want to order their own or just take the money, I guess. But if they take this truck, if they're within 5 to 6 hours of me, I will deliver it to them or meet them within a 5 to 6 hour radius of really Topeka, Kansas, and then I'll just leave it all together and provide it together and all of the box. So I did record putting it together. So every step, every piece, that video will be released next week. And then I did keep all of the additional parts and everything, all of the original paperwork, stuff like that is comes with the box. So if the winner is not in the local area, I will take it apart, put it back in the box. I'll record it all, obviously, and then I will, ship it to them. So very exciting. One thing that's really probably not discussed a lot of is this rear axle. So if you take a look at the rear axle, it is much different than the optic rear axle. The pumpkin is actually wider, but it's also got these scale welds on it, which are fantastic. And then the brace for the axle itself is actually more square and it is bigger. So the only other difference between the regular H10 axles and the Origin H10 axle in the rear is that these the upper link placement is actually at an angle, so it splits out like this instead of going straight. So outside of that, the only other part of the axles that's specific to the Origin are the front hubs or knuckles. And I don't have the ability to easily take the wheel off because of these center hubs, but there are 4 screw holes, which essentially are what you would see on a real hub or knuckle to hold the disc brakes or some sort of brakes in place. So it's really cool. You never know, Brian. You never know. You could win it. So, like I said, I'll go through the video this probably early next week, and we will get the build process put out there. I'll probably just put some music to it because it's going to be audioless. There were some choice words during the install, music in the background, things like that. So, overall, in terms of positive, negative feedback for the truck, I will say that I'll start with the things that I liked. Really, I mean, it's mostly positive. Like I said, the wheels turned out fantastic. I didn't think that I would like them because of how basic they looked, but they look really good in person. The panels, you run your finger across it and you can't even tell it's been machined. You would assume that these aluminum panels were stamped, but they weren't. They were machined. You can see the lines on the back. The back side of the panels are a little more rigid or rough. You can definitely feel the machine marks. The carbon fiber is fantastic. It's super light. I think I weighed, in the original unboxing, I weighed the top. I think it was like 10 grams. I weighed one of the door panels. I think it was 20 grams. And then the hood itself was, I think, 27. So really thin, really lightweight stuff. The other really cool thing about it is that Vanquish is going to be selling the panels. So I'll probably order a couple of different sets of a couple of different colors because I will be running one of my trucks in not only for content for YouTube, but also for fun, because why have something like this if you can't run it? I did have to add the scale hardware. Um, it's just one of those things. I think it was really cool that they provided the anodized SAD bits for the shocks. Fantastic. Everything went together really smoothly. I didn't have any problems with any of the parts. The instructions were very easy to follow. No issues at all. I think, for the amount of machine time that it takes to do these, not only that, but the process in general, big thumbs up from me. Some of the things that necessarily, I wouldn't say didn't like, but, are things that are probably discussion points that you'll never hear about are these machined rod ends. Huge pain in the, yeah. So if you buy them and you've never had them before and you get them, they're not just specific to the Origin. I'm just saying in general, these probably are going to be a little bit painful for the first time you put them on there. Outside of that, I didn't really have anything that I didn't like about it. There's obvious things that I wish it would have come with, like scale hardware, maybe some IFRs for the wheels, maybe aluminum rod ends for the rest of the truck, because the only aluminum rod ends you get are on the front part of the axle here. So the rest are plastic. The fuel cell. I mean, I've talked about a lot of these things, and again, you got to pick and choose, right? You got to pick and choose. I think ultimately the truck came out exactly how I would like it, and it's a lot of fun. The other really cool thing is these headlights are super bright. So I'll turn the truck on real quick. I am using a Radio Master MT12 to power the truck. I did label it Origin number 53 because that's what it is, Origin 53. We'll turn it on. There's a battery in it. The wheels will straighten. And yeah, the headlights are super bright. I'm sure if you've had a set of the rigid pod lights that they sell for $100, you know how bright they are, but I'll turn them on real quick. Maybe. There we go. So to put it in perspective, we'll turn the lights off and face the wall there. So we'll turn it on, just facing the wall. Whew. You can see. I'll turn the lights off real quick and do it again. So you're getting some light, background light from the window over there, but yeah, I mean, they are extremely bright. I was driving it around my house last night after I finished it with the lights on and complete dark, and yeah, they get the job done, to say the least. I was gonna add more lights to it, but after looking at these, I realized that doesn't need to happen. So. Yeah, right. My 1-to-1 lights suck too, so these would definitely. Rigid is a 1-to-1 brand, so you could buy their lights. So I'm gonna take this back down for now, because we're gonna move to the lemon here. Put this up here very carefully. Just aim that over just a little bit, so we can see it. Yeah, the first scratch is always going to be the hardest, but we'll get there at some point. So. Yeah, I agree. I think it should have come with scale hardware. I think the problem with it is that there's 3 different types of scale hardware. You can get stainless, the zinc coated, or black scale hardware. It's just more options, more work that the Vanquish team has to do in general. And really, it's not just work for them, it's also more things that can go wrong, right? So, one of the really cool things is I don't have it in front of me, but they do have they do ship with a checklist, and the checklist is actually signed by two different people. So, they are trying everything they can to make sure that they get these orders right, which they should. I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but it's cool to see all of that process in your box. So, I mean, the tools, I think, that would be cool, but at the same time, I prefer MIP tools. I have some of the Vanquish tools, but I like the MIP ones better. So that's typically what I used. I did use the Vanquish tools to install this truck, just kind of for the sake of building it. But yeah. So the other truck we're going to get to today is I'm just going to unbox this real quick. I'm not going to go over it in detail. There's thousands of videos on this truck specifically. But Horizon finally got these shipped out. They finally got them. I think that they had scoped to ship them out around March, April timeframe, but we are seeing them in hobby stores now. Oh, yeah. That completely went over my head. You are correct. If they included the scale hardware, they would have had to include some sort of scale tool. You're right. I mean, at that point, I would be fine with ordering the $40 set of scale tools with my $3,500 truck. So I wouldn't have really complained if I had to buy tools for the scale hardware. But you get people that will. I mean, people will complain about every little thing. So I don't know that you'll find a lot of people complaining about the Origin specifically, because a lot of the people purchasing the Origin are, they're just a different kind of people. So yeah, the old Gilamon here. I know there's 3 in stock in Topeka at D&Me. So if you guys are local and want one, I agree. I think that the cost is, I wouldn't say too little or too much. I think the cost is probably about accurate for what you're getting. All of the machined panels with the machined cage. There are some plastic bits in there. I think the interior being plastic is, I don't know. It is what it is. I'm not upset about it. It doesn't look the greatest, but at the same time, at least they provided an interior. They could have just said, hey, go order a Knight's custom interior or something like that, but they didn't. So, everything else besides the interior and really the support up front under the panels is plastic as well, and I'm completely fine with that. It's hidden for the most part, so it doesn't really bother me. Yeah, I get that too. I wasn't supposed to buy any more cars this year because of the Origin, but yeah, here we are. Here we are. So we're gonna do a quick unboxing of the old Gilamon real quick. Nothing too crazy. Just see what's in the box, because I'm gonna take it out and run it here in about 30 minutes. So we'll slice it open. Yeah, pretty much. It's actually a relatively small box considering how supposed big this truck is supposed to be. So I got the lid off. It is pretty big. As I was saying that. So we have the truck itself. I assume that the only thing in here is the radio. Easier to take it out this way. Yep, nothing else in there. And then we've got a book and some other stuff. That is it. That's the only thing in the box. So We'll call this the GLP-1 car. I'm gonna get a sticker that says GLP-1 and put it on here. So yeah, some immediate notices. The shocks, I probably would have screwed those differently, but they put little rubber silicone hose deals on there to, I guess, keep them from poking the box. I don't know why they would do that, but that's interesting. I would have just turned the screw around personally. We have the traditional Spectrum radio. We all see how that operates in some other videos, so I'm gonna spare you the details there. There you go. There you go. Your Origin hasn't shipped yet, has it? My second Origin didn't ship. I only got one of the two. I ordered them both at the same time, and I only got one. So I'm not upset about it. I think it's interesting, and you know, there's probably a disclaimer somewhere that says if you order two, you'll get one in the first batch and then one later, so that more people can get them or get their hands on them. I think that they're probably concerned people are going to sell the second one. I never intended on selling either one of mine. I'll keep one in the box and I'll run one. So, yeah. It does come with enough batteries to power the radio, which is nice. It actually comes with lights too, LED lights. I guess I didn't see any reviews that showed that. I did watch a few reviews on the truck. I watched the West Desert Wheeler review, and then I watched bits and pieces of the Exo Cage review, and then I did watch the RC, I think it's RC Online review. Yeah, I would be very curious to know the number of orders that they took. So I got truck number 53, and that's the highest number that I've seen. I assume they probably took around 75 orders. So, yeah. So I don't know that I would say that it's too big or too small. I think that these tires and wheels make it look a lot bigger than it is. And for scale, this is my RC Speedy A1 Capra. It's basically a Capra with just a RC Speedy chassis on it. But, I mean, comparatively, it's not significantly larger. I mean, it's probably accurately an 8th scale. I think that the RC Speedy stuff is smaller scale. I think it's closer to 11th, maybe even 12th scale than it is to 10th scale. And I think that this would be closer to 9th scale, maybe even closer to 8th. But I don't know that I would say that it's massive. So with these wheels and tires, I have a tape measure somewhere. Maybe. Yeah, I don't have a bomber to showcase. It's almost probably the same size as the Rift, except it's got locked axles instead of the unlocked axles. So here is the stock Capra cage. And tape measure, tape measure, tape measure. Where art thou? There it is. So here's the stock Capra cage compared to the Speedy. I'll compare these two first. So it is probably, it is actually longer than the Speedy cage. But overall, about the same, and it's not even really the same size, right? I mean, I think, like I said, I think these Speedy cages are a touch touch under 10 scale or touch over 10 scale, probably closer to 11 scale. But you have the capper cage here. You're still looking at probably 2, maybe 3 inches longer. Yeah, maybe even 4 total inches longer. So I don't know. I do know that the SCX6 that I have, I was not a fan of it initially with the honcho body. I would take it out and it wouldn't do very much or anything crazy. But once I put the RC Speedy cage on it, the R2 XXL, it made it a lot more fun. And actually, the bigger scale is better for tires because I'm using the Trepador Proline tires for the SCX6, and they actually work way better on the SCX6 than they do on my 10 scale rig with the 1.9 Treps. So I don't know. I feel like the reason that they made the truck the size that it is because of the cutting brake technology. I don't think they could have made it any smaller and put it in a 10 scale axle without breaking a lot of parts. So there is a lot of really cool technology in this truck, and I really hope that this isn't the last thing that Axial comes out with that's, cutting edge. No pun intended. But it is a really cool rig. So some of the positive things about it, at least for me, is they finally listened, right? So there's cap screws on the axle instead of there's button screws on the axle instead of the caps, and so it takes away the ability for rocks to hang on it. And then if you look at the lower portion, the screws are actually inset on the axle, and so that you can't catch on those. You can tell that there was a lot of feedback received from probably many different sources, and they applied it when they built this truck. The other really cool thing are the rock lights, the LEDs. I mean, yeah. So tape measure, what I was going to do with that is measure the actual track width. So the track width with the stock tires is probably right around 12.5 inches. So, I mean, Class 3 in Sorca, you could probably run these axles just fine because the Class 3 gates are 16 inches wide. You could probably squeeze these through most of the buggy gates. I think if you look at the We Rock rules, those buggy gates are 14 inches, most of them. So, I don't know. I just think it's really cool that they were able to create some new technology that we haven't really seen before and release it. So huge shout out to Axial Horizon, for releasing this truck. Whether it's, necessarily too big or not, I think one of the other things that I really like about it is the geometry and how it sits. So, typically you want something that sits as low as it can, and you can see that the front part of this truck is designed to have that front axle hug as close as it can to it so you can run it in full bump, right? So this would be full bump and then this would be full droop. But yeah, I mean, the tires actually feel really good for being RTR tires. I do see a lot of people running them. I'm not going to run them today. I'm going to swap these wheels and tires for some Proline crawler cut and shuts and on some 2.2 Battleborn wheels. So we're going to run those today. Like I said, we've already seen footage of people running the stock tires with success. So no need to beat that horse. But yeah, I mean, there it is. The new Axial Gilamon. This is obviously the green one. I did not want the red one. I'm not a huge fan of red per se. yeah, you see that. But Yeah. I think one of the other really interesting things is that it has the ASD technology, is which they're calling for the cutting brakes for the rear. So the servo actuates the ASD technology. And the way it works is much like any other dig or mechanical uh, selection device, if you will, in the RC market. And it actuates, there's little two little star pieces on either side of the diff that connect the axle. And so what it does is it moves the star from the locked diff to a locked position on the axle housing, essentially effectively locking that wheel. And so, it's actually really genius technology. And not only did they put it in the rear axle, you can put it in the front axle, and they put it in the trans. So the trans now is effectively adding a small servo like this, a micro servo, adding it to the trans, you have front and rear dig. That means that you can lock both of the front wheels up and turn the back, or manipulate the back of your car without the front tires turning, or you can lock the back wheels up and manipulate the front of your car without the back turning. And that's that's really cool. So, especially for an RTR, right? All you have to do is add the servo, and now you have cutting brakes in the rear, and you have dig in the front and the back, or burn, whatever you want to call it. So, definitely really intriguing. And then the other thing that I want to talk about is the axles, or excuse me, the drive shafts rotate the opposite direction. So I haven't really seen this before. I mean, I'm sure that somebody has done it, but I haven't really seen it before. However, the reason that they turn in the opposite direction, I don't even know if I can do that. But the reason they turn in the opposite direction is to keep torque twist down. So when you're driving the vehicle up an incline or something, and your truck or buggy or whatever is powering it, you're turning a drive shaft the same direction on the front and the rear. It's going to want to make your shocks unload on one side, because you are effectively loading up the other side with your torque, the torque from the motor. And so spinning your axles in the opposite spinning the drive shafts in the opposite direction will apply the same torque to both sides, and effectively eliminate the truck or buggy or whatever from doing this as you go forwards and backwards. So I believe that was the EXO video that I saw where he had stated that. So I mean, I didn't know anything about it. Like I said, I just opened the box, so I haven't had time to mess with it. I do like the shock placement. The interior looks great. Now, I'm a little disappointed in the price. I think that they probably should have released the first batch before they raised the price, because they announced the price at $550, I think, and then they released it at $600. So I ended up paying $600 for this truck instead of the $550 or whatever it was. So that was kind of a that was kind of a that was kind of a terrible thing to do, especially when you blame it on tariffs or whatever, and you already had the trucks in stock. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? I will likely move this truck over to the Radio Master as well. So the Radio Master radio, the MT12, is a fantastic radio. I would only get the ELRS version. You can get a module that sits up front here for 4-in-1 and run many other different receivers, but the ELRS is very good, and it's cheap. You can buy the ELRS receivers for $20 or less. So just make sure they're ELRS compatible. But yeah, there it is. I guess we'll see how good the stock servo is. A lot of people were saying that it's dedicated to Axial. It is Spectrum. I typically am not a fan of the Spectrum stuff. They did move it to a 25 spline, so you have 25 teeth on the servo, which is pretty much the standard now. I think historically they did, I don't remember, it's like 23 teeth, so you couldn't use the stock servo horn with a different servo. But you can now. It does look like the drive shafts have metal U-joints anyway, so that's nice. And yeah, I mean, it is a great looking rig. I would say this is probably one of my favorite Axials that I've opened or unboxed in the last few years or since the channel has started. So yeah. Anyway, enough about that. We can take one final look at the origin before we call it a day. It hasn't been run yet, no scratches or marks on it. I'm always very nervous when handling this. Like right now, the antenna tube fell out, so we're going to take the battery tray off this side. I don't want to apply scratches at all, but especially right now. So this is how the battery sits in there. It sits in there just like the optic. There's a carbon tray that bolts to the door card or door panel. As you can see, the really cool thing about it is how much depth the door has, so how it's bubbled and anyway, I always get very nervous handling the truck. The wiring isn't the greatest inside here, so it is what it is, but yeah. And then here is the passenger side. We'll fix up the wiring once we know we're going to keep the truck or not. I do have some red, gold, and there's only two colors, red and gold IFR inners for the truck. I got some slims and I think the deltas maybe. Deltas or I don't remember. But they're in the cart along with some scale hardware for the hubs. So I'll probably get some stainless scale hardware for the inside here. Put those in there. I have the outer stainless, but I don't have the inner. It was out of stock when I ordered. I did look last night and now all of it was in stock, so hopefully it's still in stock. So I decided to go with the crawlers. I was actually going to run the Treps on here, but the Treps were out of stock at my local hobby store, so they had the crawlers. I just purchased those and threw them on. I will very likely have multiple sets of wheels for running the buggy, so I would like to go to the We Rock competition, I think in June or July. I don't know that I'll run it, but I'd like to go there and crawl in the area. And if I do, I'll take this truck as one of the trucks. I'll definitely be taking it to Crawlapalooza and possibly Apex if I go down there for Apex. So, and then BMR. So BMR isn't an RC event, but it is the, I think, 17th or 18th through the 21st, I think, maybe. I don't know. It's not this weekend. I think it's the next weekend, but I will take the Origin with me to that and probably get some footage if and only if there has been a winner selected for the giveaway. Like I said, I don't want to run the truck in case somebody wants it. So I don't want to scratch it and, dent it or whatever. But once there is a winner chosen and they choose or don't choose the truck, I will run the one that is left and order another one for myself. So, yeah. Here is the difference between the Origin and the Speedy. See if I can do this without making a mistake. So you can see that the Origin is significantly bigger than the Capra Speedy. And then here would be like a Capra chassis. So it's probably it is definitely a little longer than the Capra chassis, but it's probably close to the same wheelbase. One of the interesting things is that the rear axle looks like it's wider than the front. I don't know that that's the case. So we're right around 10 and 3/4 inches, or 1075. Yeah, they're both about the same, 1075. The rear looks a little wider than the front for some reason. I'm not sure why, but yeah. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. The Vanquish Origin in all of its glory. Now, one thing that I was talking to Aaron about, he is a gentleman that's in the area that purchased an Origin as well. He might be watching, maybe not. But one of the things that I was talking to him about is the panels. So during the Vanquish live stream, it was stated that they will at some point sell. Sorry, can't talk and focus at the same time. Anyway, it was stated at some point they will sell just the panels for the truck or new replacement panels. Now, the question that I have is, are they going to sell panels independently? Well, really, the question Aaron had is, are they going to sell panels independently? So, like, say you scuff the door panel, can you just buy the door panel in blue or red or purple or whatever? Or do you have to buy the whole set? So, I assume that you have to buy the whole set, but you never know. I mean, you would potentially be able to buy them as a single panel. I think the big concern buying them as a single panel is the color matching. So, I mean, if you look at the shock cap color versus the truck color, I mean, they're both anodized the same color. However, they are really not even close. So I think that the concern on the Vanquish side is that if they sell single panels, that the color will likely not be matching your original set. So I would definitely yeah, the certificate. So that's the other funny thing about mine is my certificate was never actually signed, right? My title was never signed by anyone at Vanquish. So I'm going to reach out to Josh or Vanquish support and see if we can correct that. Now, maybe it's worth more not being signed. I don't know. I probably won't have it signed until after the drawing. So that way, you know, maybe the next person wants to choose if they get it signed or not. So, yeah, the aluminum rod ends are a huge pain. You'll probably spend doing all of them. What's that? 2, 4, 6, 8, 16. There's probably 24 rod ends on the optic. Just doing the 4, the 2 on each side of the front, took me a long time. It probably took me 20 to 30 minutes to do. So I would anticipate doing all of them will take a very long time to do. So good luck. Good luck. Yeah, so you're already familiar with the process. So, yep, I think that's all I had for today. We got a Speed Sunday video being uploaded, so it'll be released tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central Time. I'm not sure people are involved or how people like that series, but it's fun to make. So, so for the lights, like I said, I bought the. So there's a couple of things worth noting for the lights. The lights require a regulator, so you do have to put the regulator in there. If you hook your lights up directly to 3S power, you will burn them out without the regulator. So the regulator is this little piece here. It's this little guy, and then you hook the green up to red, I think. I'm not sure, but I soldered it all together. You can see here, and then I have the regulator hooked up to this $3 AliExpress 30 amp relay. And so what this relay does is the relay has an end that plugs into the receiver, and then it has two ends, one that plugs into the battery and one that plugs into the lights. So I'm getting direct power from the battery to the lights through the receiver through a button. It's actually this button here, this switch. So when I turn this switch, the receiver activates that relay and turns the lights on or off. Now you can wire that. You can wire. No, these are 3S lights, so you can power them by the 3S battery. You just have to have this. What did I call it? You have to have the regulator in line. If you don't have the regulator in line, you will burn up the headlights on 3S. But they are, what is that, 12 volts, I think. 3S is 12 volts. So yeah, I just have them wired through this relay and connected directly to my battery plug. And then the relay is powered or managed by my radio through channel 3. So they are extremely bright. I would not run them on receiver power because you'll probably lose a lot of the brightness. I mean, if you don't do like night runs or anything, then you probably don't need full 3S power. It's just going to be for looks anyway. So yeah, there you go. Boom. Most on and off switch will run off of the receiver voltage. So each cell is 3.7 volts. It really just depends on the charge. I think fully charged 3S is 12.4 to 12.6 volts. And I'm on my phone, so I can't use the calculator for it. So yeah, and that's the other great thing about it is the headlight wire was extremely long, so it gives you a lot of flexibility where you don't have to cut and add and splice and do all of this other stuff. So I don't know what the regulator does. It might actually be a drop down in terms of voltage. It says, actually, I think the regulator probably regulates the amperage that the lights receive. I don't know. I know that I have another set of the rigid light pods, and I plugged them in without reading the directions because who does that? So there wasn't a regulator on it. I was holding the pod, plugged it into the battery, and it immediately almost burned my fingers off. So I unplugged it, pulled out the directions, and along with my head out of the third point of contact, and yeah, put the regulator on, and boom, it worked. So I know that the regulator, they call it a regulator. I don't know what the actual terminology for it is, but it says on here, it says input, output, and then there is colors for the input and output. So green is the output for negative, and orange is positive, and then you have positive and negative, which is red and black for the inputs. 350 milliamp, made in the USA, 5 to 12 volts. So it is probably a stepper or a reducer, if you will. So it will potentially, the lights will potentially be as bright on back voltage since it says 5 to 12 volts. I don't know. That would be a good test. I just know that these relays are on AliExpress for like $3 a relay. I had bought like 10 of them and used them all but the one for other projects with lights and such. So I like brightness, very bright. You almost done with yours, Aaron? That's a lot of lights. That's a lot of lights. So if anyone is going to Crawlapalooza this year, I think we're gonna do a couple of night runs. So if you're gonna make it, bring your truck with lights because we're probably at least do 2 night runs. Last year we did one and it was a ton of fun. So that's at Grand Lake or Disney, Oklahoma. Sweet. I'm excited to see what yours looks like. I keep wanting to call it gold, but it is orange. Orange and blue. Apex is held there too. It's essentially Disney Oklahoma is like an island between the two spillways of Grand Lake. There's two really massive spillways, and the spillways have, when they're opened, they've caused a lot of the bedrock to be exposed, and so you get a lot of off-road activity there. You get the tiny trucks, but it started as Jeeps and bouncers and things like that, and now side by sides obviously are there quite a bit. But you can look it up on YouTube. It's just Disney Oklahoma side by side or Jeep or whatever, and you'll find all kinds of videos on it. Or you can do Crawlapalooza. I don't know the exact dates, but there is a Disney Oklahoma off-road group, and they have all of the dates for all of the events posted there. So it shows you like BMR, it shows you Apex, and then it would show you Crawlapalooza. But it's open to the public, so you don't have to pay anything to go in the area. So you don't have to go during an event. You could go anytime you wanted to. There's plenty of campgrounds and Airbnbs and cabins and stuff in the area. So it's not a bad place. It's actually pretty fun. Let's see. The wheelbase is probably, I don't know. I don't know. The wheelbase on the Gilamon is probably 50. Holy smokes, it's like 15 inches. That's crazy. The wheelbase on the Origin is like 13 and a quarter, 1325. So what's that? An inch and some change longer. Sounds good, dude. Good luck. Good luck. I'm about to jump as well. I'm gonna go get some footage of the Gilamon. One last view of the Origin. This will be the last of many views. Again, this is number 53. I don't know. I don't know what other numbers are out there. I know I've seen 13. I've seen 12. I've seen 23. I've seen 30, 31, and 50. I've seen 50 as well. So, thanks everyone for tuning in. Have a great weekend, and we look forward to the other videos coming. So, stay tuned.